Welcome back. You're watching Mwongozo today here on Morning Prime. Handshake government, as you can see it here, the editorial cartoons, just to give you a snippet of what we have this morning that will set as a segue to our discussion as well much later in the course of the program. This is a handshake government, Mount Kenya and Kenya Kwanza, and you can see who's being tossed from, of course, the frying pan into the fire. It is Mount Kenya right now with the row that is going on regarding the Rift Valley and Mount Kenya. And as far as Deputy President is concerned, we'll talk about also the elders who are meeting the Deputy President, and also they are also bound to be meeting the President as well to try and pursue a happy medium so that they could restore at least some peace, or broker peace as it were. Also, that will be part of the discussion as well. This is what Gams has captured aptly for us inside the Standard. And what we're talking about is the reaction on what the president disclosed yesterday, which is drawing a lot of flack from every quarter of his country right now as far as the constitution is concerned, and what is the ultimate interest of the concerned country, right, in hiring this jade and giving it maybe, or defraying the price for the president as well on behalf of Kenyans. Did he act presidential? Well, that is a question that is hanging on the rafters of many Kenyans' minds right now. And this is what we're discussing this morning. And this is what Victor Dulo has drawn inside the Daily Nation today. Inside the Star Ozone is looking at the Haiti mission. Right now that we know the troops are, or the boots on the ground right now, they are in Haiti. The first advanced team, or the advanced team actually came back, but we have the first troop now on the ground. Congratulations on over 60 years of self-rule. This is what Uncle Sam, you can see him looming largely over the president there. Are we really free? Remember, tomorrow is Madaraka Day. And also, Steno has captured this inside the People Daily today. Friends of Kenya paid for the jet. Also, could they do it? And as is being put here by Steno, that is of a feather, ask them to pay for us, our crazy taxes. Right, let's hear from Dr. Isaac Kalua Green. You hold with the view that is being put forward by our panelists here, especially Professor Kindiki. He thinks that we are navel-gazing on a non-issue regarding this particular trip, which will concentrate on other issues right now. We move on. And should the president have just kept mum? Because I think also that particular debate was, you know, declining or tapering off.
There are a number of questions, Debal, that I think we need to ask ourselves. And before asking those questions, I just want to delve back into the subject of tortoises. You know, it is said that when you find a tortoise on a table, the issue is who placed the tortoise there. So actually here, I notice and appreciate with deep appreciation that indeed we have 5 tortoises around, because we are God's tortoises. How favored are we to be out here, to be talking about things when we are just placed here by God? So we are God's tortoises, I want to believe. So tortoise, I'm saying, is a good thing. I keep some. I have actually about 4 in my home here in Nairobi. And I keep studying what they do, and they do funny and interesting things, and they are very good animals. So we are God's tortoises.
And
that's
and
why.
Kipruto Arap Kirwa is calling them Mzee Kope.
It's not Mzee Kope. Like it's okay.
We're just making fun of
I know.
Arap Kirwa, of course.
But
with the affectation.
in Kiswahili.
Yes, Mzee Kobe.
But
Not
no,
Mzee
we're
Kope.
talking about the affectation of
Linguistic.
the Kale language in it.
Linguistic affectation.
Sini Mzee Kope.
Kope.
Yeah. Yes.
Kobe. Okay, let's go to my...
No, let's correct it.
Okay. Okay.
Mzee Kope.
Yeah. Excellent. You did very well.
You know, we have problems at times. At times when,
Anyway,
when
on
we
a
talk
lighter
in
note,
that language,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
you can say the P of Paul or Benjamin, so that you distinguish.
But you got it right. That's why we're actually making fun of you.
good.
Yeah. Continue, sir.
So, gentlemen, I want to ask us some questions about the plane. and just straight questions that we need to respond to in our thoughts about the whole thing. So first of all, was the issue of the plane well handled? The answer is a straight no. We should never at any point have the president talking about the plane that he used. The logistics, those are actually logistics. They're very, very far. And for him to come out, not once, twice, and through others, thrice, there must be something wrong. Someone has slept on their job, period. The president should never have talked about it. He's coming out to try and protect himself. I wouldn't want to see my president doing that. That is a fact. The second thing that we need to ask ourselves, are there facts out of the president's statements? And truly, there are facts. I'll talk about facts because I am a small aviator, all to God's glory. I have a small thing that shakes in the air. I'm sure maybe you may not be able to get to your place and get another ride. In fact, my wife doesn't ride on it, but we are there. So I have some little information. I'm saying this to say that I have some little information about aviation. And in aviation industry, there are things that are very normal. You can have a plane given to you with fuel by your buddy. You can exchange. That is possible. That is a fact. Fact number 2, is it true that it is 70 million? And I was just checking with my colleagues on how much it costs. And the Focus 70 ER, the cost of running an hour is 1.3 million Kenya shillings. Going to the US and back is 40 hours. If you calculate that, it's about 52 million Kenya shillings. The cost of operations, the pilot, the accommodation, a few things, is normally charged at 10% of the fuel costs. So it is actually 10 million. If you add the 52 to the 10 million is 62. 70 million is a factual figure, that is about the cost of running a flight all the way to US and back.
What about the parking fees?
Yeah, including all the parking fees, it's about 72. It's about actually it's about 62 million. So 70 million is a true figure. That is a fact. This is not anything that anyone should argue. Then, the other question that we need to ask ourselves, are Kenyans valid in asking this? Yes. 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 It's their right to know the cost because it is about public money. It's about public figure. It's about public expenditure. It is right that when the president is participating in such an event, then it is true that you can be able to, they need to know. So they're validated in asking these costs. It is right. Is it true that it can be fueled? I've said it previously. Yes. Actually, if it is 10 million and I want to take it at the face of the facts, if it is 52 million, it is true, it is normal that you can be given a plane and with fuel, you go and have it's the same concept of having a wedding and you have a car to go and carry the bride and someone gives you a Mercedes or another car and say, go and have it. It's the same concept. We are blessed differently. And therefore, fuel for plane is just like fuel for a vehicle because it is dependent on who is doing that. So we need to take it within concept. Kenyans are validated to ask why and whether it is this is the cost that has been. This is what has costed them to get the plane. Now, what are the things that we need to protect? Is this a process that is supposed to be handled this way? The answer could be no, because there is a constitution, as clearly mentioned. There is what is supposed to be given in terms of what the Constitution calls for, and how you receive gifts and all that. So it is okay for the discussion to be there. And by the way, it is not going to end at this. It has just started. Why? Because Kenyans are used to some of these things, and they imagine every transaction is expected to have some deal in it. That's the way we are wired, unfortunately. And what needs to be done, I think, is just what the president is doing. He is selling hope. So imagine people are pained, people who have heard things about these kind of transactions before, and they are suspecting everything that is being done. They imagine that the reason why school feeding program is dying is because of what is expected there. Don't also fail to expect that politicians are also waiting for your enemy to make a mistake so that they can ride on it. So they are waiting, sitting, scheming every single day, every moment, to try and see where is Ruto going to make a mistake, and vice versa in all these processes. So this is a normal discussion, and I think the best way is for those who failed in the first place to come out and bring out this. And I like the way that Rigi G came out the other day when there is extreme pressure and people are expecting that nobody's talking. He comes talking about something else that is so light and puts everybody into a laughter. And I think that is the kind of a situation that we need to get into as a country, that we can focus on other things, but they are not going to be left without discussion just because we are talking about them. We need to create something else that's going to keep us going. A mistake has been done. Let's own it up. Let's proceed. Kenyans are validated in asking all these issues, and it should be allowed for them to ask. But there are bigger issues that we need to deal with. Sincerely speaking, as a nation, we must continue in hope, knowing that we will make mistakes every day.
Right.
But what are we doing after we have made the mistakes?
All right. I need to also to just maybe plumb deeper and probe what also you're telling us in terms of facts. If you flip to, have you read what is in the Standard today on the material story that you're talking about there on the plane? And if my director may just pick up maybe a snippet of it where we have it here, because you're telling us this is costing more than what is being projected. And you're saying that is a confirmable fact, that the 70 million shillings that the president is quoting is factual. I wonder, what is your source?
Debal. I said I'm an aviator. Okay?
Yeah,
I know something about cost of fuel. It might be something like a bicycle in terms of comparison, okay? But the facts are that a Fokker 70ER, the cost of running that plane is 1.3 million Kenya shillings per hour.
All right.
It costs 20 hours, and therefore it is 40 hours returns, and therefore it is 52 million, and the cost for parking fees, the logistics and everything else is normally charged at 10% of that cost. That comes to 10 million, 5 point something on the way out and 5 coming back. So 10 million is valid. Is it possible that the president could have been asked to pay 10 million? Yes, because that is the actual operation cost. Therefore, the fuel and the plane may have been given out. These are facts. I'm not talking about whether it is right or wrong. I'm talking about facts. I also know that it is a fact that you can be given a plane just in the same way that you can be given a car for a wedding to go and use it for the bride, and the car comes with fuel. We are blessed differently, and that is about God and what he does. So I'm not trivializing this. I'm just talking about facts that we just need to have. And I'm not standing here to protect anybody. I'm just talking about facts from the point of view of operation. So I don't know where the source of the story you're talking about. I'm just talking from the aviation space.
Okay, because the Standard exclusively says he accessed a quotation.
Well, quotation is quotation.
A one-way trip from Nairobi
I'm talking about operation cost and fuel cost. There is no, there must be maintenance that needs to be loaded on top of this. So they are also right. I'm just talking about operation costs.
No, but that is a ticket that there's no story about maintenance. That is exclusively different when you're talking about maintenance and now the ticketing
you can take me, at the end of the day. You can take me right? on my statement. What I have given you is operation cost, actual cost value and actual cost of the operation of such
I think,
yes.
The two of you are talking the same language in the sense that it's talking about the cost, which it means that if you are I was to give you my car to go to Kitale, the fuel cost will be about 15,000, and 15,000 to come back. But that's not the operating principle.
Exactly.
This is the car that was hired or supposed to be hired. So if I was to give it to you, it will cost you the fuel. Inclusive will cost you slightly more than that, and but more fundamental issue is, was the president traveling as a on private trip? The answer is no, and therefore the state comes in. Were these friends of the President William Ruto or friends of Kenya? The answer is, he himself says these are his friends, which means these are his friends. Whatever they do with those friends is a different matter. They are not friends of Kenya. If they are friends of Kenya, we'll be able to discuss the issue differently, because now it will mean everything is above board. But if they are friends of President William Ruto, these are private friends and has nothing to do with Kenya. If Kenya is brought in because I'm dealing with my personal friends, then that is where we feel there is impropriety. Now, was this official trip? The answer is yes. If it's official trip, everything must be done officially, and everything must be above board. That's why it marks a lot of insult to the Constitution, because the Constitution does provide on how a person conferred with a certain office, whether through appointment or election, must behave. Did the president behave presidential? The answer is no. Has he done justice by answering in piecemeal the questions? The answer is no. He should have improved by giving us a detailed report so that some of the questions we are still asking are answered by him or his officer. I agree with Professor Kindiki. This should have been done by somebody in charge of logistics, not the president himself. First, by saying it could have been cheaper. It was cheaper to travel by this airline than to travel via Kenya Airways, which was also smacking a lot of contempt to Kenya Airways. He's supposed to be the first person to promote the airline that is the pride of Africa. Did he do that? No. He was actually decampaigning Kenya Airways, that in future, if I'm traveling to America, I get into this jet and I'll be saving a lot of money, which is not true. So I feel President William Ruto should just come out and say, Kenyans, I might have done something innocently and I meant well for the country, but I feel it was inappropriate for me to have done that. What does that do to us? All officers under him will not behave, because this space called public office is a privilege that you are given to preside over the destiny of this country in a bigger scale or in a smaller scale. The moment you mix your private life with your public position, that is the beginning of lack of integrity. Because the example Dr. Green is giving us is that when my daughter is getting married tomorrow, I'll go to Professor Kindiki to give me his Mercedes for my daughter to be escorted in. That is private affair between me and Dr. Kindiki, Professor Kindiki. But when it comes to official issues, you cannot afford to do that. Even when I was a minister, we were not supposed to receive a gift beyond certain value. That is the law. And also, when you go to chapter 6, it is lack of integrity to do what the president did. And I'm not condemning him. He has come out looking remorseful, but he should pronounce that remorse for us to know that he does not have contempt on the people of Kenya.
I think
so he just lifted a Pandora's box that now we're trying to actually look keenly into. The question is, if at all, of course, course, it's a national issue. It's a state operation. It's official visit of the president. And we having another country offering or defraying the cost for this particular operation raises questions about national interests, right? Because, of course, if it's your country, we always look for our national interest first, and vis-a-vis the national interest of the other country. If you put in that particular perspective now, diplomatically, what does it really contend? Because I don't believe there's someone who just wakes up one morning and he has, or I wake up, I'm just thinking about Barack and the welfare of Barack in the morning. I mean, we've always talked about on this table that human nature is always atavistic, that we always think about ourselves first. And so even that particular country will think about their interest first.
Yeah, first, I'm not able to make an authoritative argument like my brother here, Dr. Green, because he's an authority. But I also console myself with the knowledge that in logic, arguments based on authority, when you say I am this, considered to be some of the weakest arguments and sometimes diversionary. The issue here is that we are not dealing with a private wedding. We are dealing with a state visit by a state officer to another state.
Yes.
And we are dealing with humongous donations contrary to the Constitution of Kenya. And therefore, we are in space where the integrity of the state officer, in line with Article 76 2B of the Constitution, is likely to be compromised. We are finding ourselves as a country where the South Africans were a few years ago when President Jacob Zuma was involved in deals of this kind with what is known as the Gupta family, and that the matter was pursued to the logical end to the extent that President Jacob Zuma had to be removed from the office of President of South Africa. So these are not light matters. These are very weighty, grave matters. They compromise the state integrity. They compromise state security. That in fact, they make inroads into public coffers. People, as you correctly say, the Lainea, do not wake up one morning if the figures we are being given of 70 million are true, are to be believed. Let's forget even about 200 million. Let's stay with 70 million. And then let us say that the Kenya government paid 10 million. People don't wake up in the morning and say they are going to pay for you 60 million without some ulterior interest. What is their interest? What is in this thing for them? There are people out there who are looking, and I agree that we are blessed differently. People who are looking for a few shillings to buy a cup of tea, and others are being blessed to the extent that a foreigner is paying for them 60 million Kenya shillings. With what interest? There is need for this matter to be probed. I don't think it is the kind of thing which should just be allowed to disappear, fizzle out like that. But I agree completely with the Professor Kindiki and Dr. Green that these are operational issues that operating officers in government should be the ones to deal with. They should have dealt with the procurement, and they should be dealing with the accounting. It is true that His Excellency the President has felt compelled to come out and make pronouncements about them. He has got a battery of people who should be making those kinds of pronouncements. Unfortunately, when one of them was asked about this at the time when the president was out, he dismissed the journalists and told them, don't ask maswali ya kishenzi, stupid, useless questions. Now, that is holding the country in contempt, that when we raise questions of accountability, you refer to them as maswali ya kishenzi. And I think it is this attitude of ushenzi that then forces His Excellency the President to come out to speak for himself on matters that should be left to his officers.
Mm-hmm. So it is a breakdown of communication when we look at just the whole Department of Communication, because we have different views. When we hear from the government spokesperson, and of course we hear from the president, or those are just diametrically different revelations that are coming to bear at the end of the day. And the question will be again, is the president overreaching as far as his office is concerned and the people below him who are meant to be his operatives in terms of even logistical issues? Is he all over the map? That's a question we should be asking. That some of the docket that seems to be handled by a different docket should not be a presidential docket handling and talking about transport.
You put people in dockets, competent people,
to do their work.
To do their work. And you let them do their work. If they can't do their work, they ship out. But you cannot be the president, you are the spokesperson, you are the accounting officer, you are the procurement officer, engaging in logistics when you should be getting into the jet, it is ready. You have got officers who have done all that needs to be done, and yours is to go and do what you're supposed to come out and do. Not now being the one who is getting into that very murky space that you are the one now providing the answers, and people start exchanging with you. We should never get into a situation where the president is embroiled in a public exchange with every Tom, Dick, and Harry on expenditure, on integrity, on procurement.
Right. So the president has been on this space before, because also we had the issue of the floods. The Met had given the indication there will be floods. The president came and said, forget about the floods. What we're just going to have is nominal rains. And then we saw what really happened. People are circling back to what the president had pronounced. So is he, the question we're asking, is he all over the map? He's now even the meteorological department, and even the Department of Meteorological, or Met, I should say, were at pains, to align with what the president was saying. And we saw even one of the directors there giving a different indication of what the president had said. So we wonder, whom do we believe? Are they reading from the same script?
Right. It's good to remind the president of Form 2 physics, or Form 1, depending on which school somebody went, which in the explanation of how electricity flows, there is what we call a fuse. A fuse is supposed to assist, should there be a huge current beyond the capacity of the wires and the system, the fuse will blow off so that the system is saved from destruction. The fuse in this case should be an officer at a lower risk of destroying the system. But if the president becomes the fuse and he places himself on the path of electric current, he is likely to be blown himself. And when the president is blown in a country like ours, we have destroyed the nation. We should be using as many fuses as possible so that if the current is slightly above that, the fellow is destroyed, he can be sacked, but later on recalled for purposes of conserving the system. This is something that I feel the president has not been using effectively, because he cannot be a weatherman, he cannot be somebody in charge of procurement, he cannot also be in charge of communication every day unless something is presidential. And the presidents don't make statements of detail. They give the vision, and that vision is augmented by the operatives who give the operational details of the journey the country is traveling. But the president has allowed himself to be the punching bag of every individual, including some of us who really we are non-entities when it comes to state power. He should learn basic physics, Form 1, Form 2, about the fuse. And he has enough fuses. Spokesperson in his office, State House, spokesperson like Maura, who has actually become so arrogant that everything he thinks is quarreling people. It's like this regime has accepted there are people they are quarreling. And even the public, they are quarreling the public, and the public is very innocent. We are asking innocent questions, and we want innocent answers that are relevant to the questions that we have asked. But they are getting annoyed with everybody, and they are getting arrogant, displaying lagis in a country that is going to beg for 1 trillion worth of goods, and 3/4 of it will go back to America, because they are not coming here because they love Kenya. They are coming here because there is business opportunity. Even comparing 200 million to 1 trillion expected goods, the rule of the thumb, you know, Diban, for every $1 that gets to Africa, 7 of them get out of Africa.
Professor Kirigi, do you wind up on it?
I think this debate on the utterances by the president, the Kenyans are valid in the views they are bringing, but I think what is happening in the country is that people are given work and people are not doing. And sometimes maybe as the head of state, because if you look at the ministries,
are you given the opportunity to do it? That's the question.
Yeah, I think they are given the opportunity because the bar, when you are appointed to any office, it is assumed that you assume the office and the responsibilities that, you know, entails in that office. And there's no one has come out to say that I have done this, and maybe the president has stopped me, or publicly said that stop doing it. Nobody.
You can't.
Can you?
You can't.
No. I think.
Professor, you can. No, Professor, no.
They can write in their memoirs. Yeah. They will not say it.
No, yes, that is true. That is true.
I think Professor has a cheek to do it. He can. Yeah.
No, we are not saying that. We are not saying that the president has really, you know, said that don't do this. But we are saying there are weaknesses in the people who are given office. That's what I'm saying. That if you work hard and maybe you give the right direction and the right advice, and whatever you do, I don't think whether anybody can stop you from doing that. But when it's left like that and you are in charge, of course you have to take some, you know, some action. Like now, the details Kenyans are asking, we are saying, why can somebody, you know, in the office of the president do it? So does that mean that they have been not told to they have been told not to do it?
Perhaps.
That doesn't. Maybe people, maybe you may guess, but not all guesses are correct, because that's just an assumption. What we are saying is, when people are given work, let them work and let them consult. So for me, I think the whole issue is like, these are issues of, you know, operations, logistics, and how should that be done. This somebody, you know, that it will be done in the office,
right? And
somebody without really making it a political thing, because the more you talk of an issue, the more you're inviting more questions which are not necessary, and it might not be as big as you think. But when people miss information and they don't get the details of the action being done or an activity which is happening at a particular place, then they raise more questions, and sometimes they may even raise questions that are not valid at all. So that's why we are saying, actually it's a fact that what Kenyans are demanding is a fact, it's a truth, that's the truth. But then I think somebody can assist, you know, in explaining this, rather than now the president himself weighing out there to fight with the crowd and the public and telling them, you know, I did this, I did that. And that's why I'm saying there's somebody, maybe somebody somewhere who is sleeping on his or her job. And they should help him so that he can also do other important matters. Even this one is important, but this one is an event that has already passed. The trip has been made. The whatever reasons why they went there has already been accomplished. Now it's time for implementation. Now, when we start now dwelling on the past, then my question is, when are we going to do things that are pertaining the future? Because as if you go out of the office, like now the president was not in the country for the last 4 or 5 days, now he's coming to work. So he should have maybe some other things on the agenda to move the country forward and let the people who deal with operations and the logistics be able to deal with this matter, because anyway, it has been done. It has occurred. That's what we are saying. So we are saying, I don't think whether there is that kind of intimidation, but I want to assume and I want to believe that the office is being run fairly and is done well, and there are people there pleased to do that work. So my comment and my contribution is based on the understanding that the office of the president is working as a normal office of any officer, a state officer, and at this point, the head of state. So that's the assumption we have. And unless something has come up, then it can be debated. But you see, the bar, many people are mind readers. What I mean, in quote, mind readers are people who, when you talk or when you speak, they're already reading your mind, and they say so and so, things like this. But it may be, I'm thinking contrary to what you are saying. So unless somebody has pronounced himself or herself that this is the way, then you cannot just start criticizing on making assumptions when they are not. My assumption is, let the office of the president operate normally as any other office, because he's also a Kenyan like us. He's a state officer, the head of state, and therefore other assumptions should be kept aside and people operate on facts, not assumptions.
The facts are that the president has stood before the public to give an accounting statement that ought to be given by an accounting officer. The state has got different entities, different dockets, and if it is true that people in those dockets are asleep, then we must ask whose people they are and why he's not cracking the whip or removing them, because His Excellency the President is responsible for those appointments. The facts are that a jet was hired. The facts are that Kenyans believe that 200 million Kenya shillings were spent. The facts are that the president is saying it's not that much, it is lower. And the facts are that the president is saying that nameless and faceless friends helped him. And the facts are that Jacob Zuma got into trouble in South Africa when a similar thing happened. In fact, at some point, it was not even that money was going to him direct, it was going to his wife. And the facts are that the South Africans probed the matter and that President Zuma was removed. The facts are that in Africa and other countries in the third world, there are wheeler dealers who come with these kinds of favors to penetrate the innermost sanctums of the state, their security risks, and that these people come in to emasculate African economies. These are the facts. It's not speculation, and therefore we need to get to the heart of the matter.
Right.
I thank you.
Okay. And we can remember also Hillary Clinton was on this a while back when she was using the Gmail, right, which is a private email, instead of a state official. And we saw what sort of controversy it really sparked even during the presidential campaigns of ours, right? That if they're private matters, it should be handled privately. And if they are public matters, then it should be handled in the official public channels at the end of the day. I think we've beaten it to the ground, unless you have any other thing.
But I think according to the Constitution, just a small thing, right? A gift is not bad. It's only the Constitution says that when you receive a gift, you need to declare it, and then it becomes the property of the state.
The state, yes.
Of the state.
Yes.
So now here.
So this was a declaration, from your own estimation.
Well, you know, the president, I like what Mheshimiwa Kipruto has said, that the president makes a statement. That's just a statement. But the people under him who do logistics and operations are the one to interpret that what
you've already made that statement. Let's not be there. The question is, was that a declaration from your own assessment yesterday?
It can't be, because it is incomplete.
This will,
Maybe it's incomplete. That's why I'm saying it should be
told,
interpreted.
we must be told who, who these people are and how much and what else they gave that we do not know about.
And why?
And
why was this?
Those are the details in the statement.
I want to agree with the team members on the table on the facts that have been laid. Just like I laid facts on the costings, and I also mentioned that it is a fact that the government needs to be accountable, and it is valid for Kenyans to ask for this cost. All these things are facts. What we need now to think beyond these questions. Where are we as a country today? Kenya is paining, and we have extraordinary time right now. Whether you are in power or in the opposition, it doesn't matter. The fact about this country is that we are a broke nation. And when you are broke, there are things that you must start thinking on how to do them. We have a debt that we have to pay before we start anything of 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings. We have so much more that we have to collect, and the fact is that we cannot collect what we cannot, however much we put it in the budget, and hence the trial to try and get to a balanced budget. If you look at the facts and what can be raised, we already have a shortfall even before we start the story. There is also additional pressure from international institutions, the IMFs and the World Banks and all this, that have supported the country to be on its knees after the bad situation that we are just coming from, of the repayment of the bond that was due. What has happened is that payment has been made, it has been given to supporters. We have just but kicked the can down the street so that 10 years later we will still be in a situation that we have to work on. The direction and guidance that is out there by international financial experts is that we must raise tax, we must do things which are very painful to the people of this country. And I believe this is what we need to start asking ourselves. What direction are we taking? What are we tightening to try and solve the situation? I think, Debal, there is something that I read, and I believe my seniors, professor and my senior politicians must have seen this before. The president is in a predicament that is unprecedented in this country. Totally unprecedented. One, he came into power, he found people with the same mentality, the same culture, and he has chosen, in my own view, to create loyalty. How has he created loyalty? By appointing people that he will empower. Even though they could be in high-powered positions, they may not be excellent in service, but he wants to create loyalty within them by grounding them in the places that they come from as his representatives, by giving them power and to show them that they can also do it like others did it. And because they may not be very efficient, some of them, then he has appointed another team to work with him in State House to perform duties that these same people are supposed to perform as advisors, so that they can keep going as he builds the loyalty that he needs as a president at a time like this, so that the country may start going in a different trajectory. Because you will have people in power that may not be very efficient, but once you have loyalty, they can get into influencing the elections in the leading party. They can get into creating power and a new image within the societies. And I believe that is the discomfort that we are trying to see, because now it's starting to work. However, there is inefficiency in one side, and that is why you will keep hearing institutions like Ministry of Agriculture, for instance. They are working very hard. They are top-notch officials in the ministry, but they say we have nothing to do here. We have our decisions made from elsewhere. You have ministries, that is coming out every day, that we make decisions, we guide professionally, but then the final idea is coming from a different place.
Or they learn it from the media.
Yes. So these are discomforts that are expected in a place where you're trying to build loyalty so that you're preparing for the next elections when you can be able to do things in a different way. These predicaments can lead the president to be the spokesman, if you have chosen to have that way. It can lead, because you are not working with the budget. We have no budget, actually, truly speaking. We are just making a face, which is very important to create hope in the country. Because as the father of a nation or even of a house, you cannot try to show that there is no money, that there is no hope. You must go creating hope. And I think that is the discomfort that may, if it works, is going to change this country forever. If the opposition, if other people look at it differently and they start attacking and the current government takes the pressure, then it's going to mess up the entire nation. And I believe what I said earlier could be the situation. So we need to look at things differently as a nation, that we are operating in an extraordinary situation. And the secret to us succeeding as a nation is to speak in one nation, in one voice. The opposition to speak in one voice, to make sure that they have what they are targeting, to make sure that the government is working. The government and the party, ruling party, to work driven by one voice, one choice of putting the nation together. Because once there is brokenness inside there, it's going to break our nation. And we must avoid it for common good.
Fantastic. Well, before we take a short break, President William Ruto and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, shared a podium together during the annual National Prayer Breakfast Day, in what is fast becoming rare following reports of a fallout between them. As much as they tried to show that all was well, their body language showed strained relations that are by the day growing bigger and bigger. They sat together, pensively, occasionally chatting, and when they took to the stage, they sent silent barbs at each other. Our reporter Daniel Kariuki captured the relationship between number one and his number two.
President William Ruto being welcomed by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Tensed moments, the two avoiding eye contact. Especially with reports that the two are having strained relations. The casual greetings to the DP by the president, signifying things no longer cozy between the two. The president moving fast to the next online for greetings. The National Prayer Day, organized by Parliament, acted as the stage for the duo to share the same podium after weeks of speculations that they were not seeing eye to eye. During their speech, President Ruto and DP Gachagua stayed clear of politics and did not address reports of a split between them. However, the two appeared to throw silent barbs at each other, DP using Bible verses to perhaps express optimism that his apparent tribulations will come to an end. The president too quoting Bible verses.
For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord. Thoughts of peace and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart.
Neno la Mungu linasema heri wapatanishi. Those who unite people, those who bring people together, those who make peace, those qualify to be the children of God.
The DP also cracking jokes on the recent President Ruto trip to the United States, where he walked side by side holding First Lady Rachel Ruto's hand. The president responding in kind.
This plane is this big and it is like this. Google here, Google there. This one must have costed 200 million because the president needed to arrive in style in the US, holding Rachel's hand.
But Your Excellency, allow me, as a truth of man, to tell you there was a little challenge arising from your trip to most of us here. When you were walking there holding the hand of the First Lady, it put us back here under a lot of immense pressure. But I knew, because I know you, you will solve that problem for us when you come back. As we welcomed you from your car to the hold room to here, you are walking fast with me, chatting. As Mama Rachel was trying to catch up with you as we came to this room.
It is true that I have been summoned by the men conference. And I will go and answer.
Recent events in the ruling camp has left tongues wagging over possible fallout between the two, barely 2 years in power. Allies of the two engaging in war of words, with those allied to DP Gachagua claiming a section of President Ruto's allies were frustrating the DP. Though the prayer breakfast meeting was a shared podium, the next move by the two will be keenly followed. In former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his then Deputy William Ruto fallout, the body language and eye contact could signal the two were not seeing eye to eye. Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Right, and the mic drops there. You can see lately what has been happening within UDA, the turmoil, dropping the mics as it were, captured there by Victor Dulo. This is what Daniel Karuki was talking about. Is there any growing rift between the parties or within UDA right now, or the rift and Mount Kenya? As you can see, the Riot Act that was being read as well by the Secretary General. You can see who is propping up this wheelbarrow. All right, seated down there. Looks like that is the Deputy President who's propping up Cleophas Malala on the wheelbarrow to read the Riot Act. And that is the divide that we're talking about right now. We take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we shall be looking at what is happening within Mount Kenya Rift, Mount Kenya and the Rift Valley, so to speak, and the implosion within UDA. We take a short break. You're watching Uongozo Today.